Hi, everybody. I'm going to take a moment to share this. I need to share this on a couple platforms. So just give me one moment. While everyone starts coming into the chat and into the video, I'm going to go ahead and try to share this. And if you have a moment to share it, please do share this. Okay, so let's see. How do we do this? So everybody, today we're going to talk about a very, very important topic. We're going to talk about the matrix. We're going to go a little bit deeper into what that is exactly and how to navigate the matrix or the concept of the matrix. So this is a really, really important topic because we don't really understand what it means. We hear the concept of the matrix, but it's in the details that we're going to understand how we can navigate, how we can actually work with that information. So let me, having a little trouble, if anybody is online that can share this on my page or on my wall, it would really help me because I can't seem to be able to do it from here. That would be awesome. So let's just see. Okay. Settings, interactive. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't work. So let's get out of here, cancel. Very interesting, not able to share this anymore. Okay. Mahim, you shared it. Thank you so much for sharing it, my dear cat. Thank you so much for doing that. I don't know why they don't have the ability to share it from here, so it's really unfortunate. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to try and do it from my phone. All right, how's everybody doing? I want to say very special happy Father's Day to everyone that is here. Hold on, I need to respond to somebody that is trying to. Okay, very good. Okay. Share to group. Okay, and then we're going to share one more time to my Facebook page because there's a lot of people on there that are trying to follow this session. Very good. All right, my loves. All right, let's get started, shall we? So I want to talk a little bit about matrix. We have a concept of the matrix that has been very popularized, which we tend to pull from the idea of the film The Matrix, which talks about that structure of reality that is simulated, and there are players, and they are living their lives in that structured reality, and many different things in that film. But I want to talk about the real matrix and actually what we're living in right now. There's a couple of really, really important things to this that I find that's really, really important for us to understand. And through my healing sessions on a daily basis, I hear a lot of people, that have trouble understanding what the matrix is. And I feel that it's important to understand that because if you understand the overall concept of our reality, it's going to help you navigate your experience, and it's going to help you understand how you express yourself, how you interact with situations, emotions, feelings, all of that. So it's important. The more we are informed, the more we are able to look at that. Now, regarding the matrix, it's free choices that become the matrix for the human. Okay, the fact that we are free will human beings. And when I talk about free will, I'm talking about consciousness. So, what we are living in and what we are sharing in as a whole is this concept of infinite consciousness. We are that infinite consciousness, and everything around us is consciousness. Everything is energy that is oscillating at a different frequency, creating matter, creating even our physical bodies down to our cellular level, down to the molecular level of the body. We are these magnificent design that is creating the structure of reality in which we live in. And the basis of that is this energy that we're talking about. So, that being said, how are we actually navigating our reality in a holographic reality in which everything is this energy that is around us? And there is a complexity to this. It's not so simple that everything is energy. There are certain laws to the universe that are important to understand when it comes to the exchange of energy, to the interaction with this energy, with this consciousness that we are in. And of course, as consciousness in this matrix is creating, it's self creating, and it's also self destructive. Okay, in order to create anything, we have the positive, we have the negative, we have the feminine and the masculine energy. And it's those two energies, those two very important aspects that create life, that when they come into union, they create a new living organism. And that is the process of creation. This way of creating life, this combination of information that creates, is the basic structure of this entire matrix multiverse. Everything operates in that way, whether it's chemical compounds that combine in a way to create something else. Everything is a unification and integration of different informations that then creates, is manipulated, or is consciously uniting itself to create something. And so, in this, what we call matrix, it works the same way. All things here are creating themselves through this consciousness. Consciousness is exploring things, it's exploring all possibilities, it's exploring itself as a human, it's exploring itself as a planet, as different species, as anything that is a part of this reality that we live in. But there are two possibilities to that. Um, One, that we are projecting into our reality all the things that we are seeing and feeling and being and exploring. And two, that this consciousness is self creating itself through the, or with the need of awareness, of becoming aware of itself, of experiencing itself. And so these two are very important because what happens is consciousness that comes into the different filters of dimensions, for example, as it's coming in through what we believe is this universe which oscillates at a very specific frequency, and within that is fragmented into different frequencies to create different structures of reality. And so this is very interesting because as humans, we are all sharing a particular frequency which is creating the structure of our reality. And individually, we have our own frequency. Okay, we each have a frequency that is creating. There is like a computing system, like an algorithm. We all have a certain coding that creates the form. Okay, the human form, the planet form, this entire network of creation. And so when consciousness is incarnate from the concept of incarnation, it is then projected into this dimensional plane, which is this planet Earth. It is then fragmented, and I've talked about this a lot in other, videos, but it's really important to understand that because when consciousness is fragmented coming into this dimensional plane, it is organizing itself in a very beautiful form. And it is light, of course, because as everything, which is energy, energy translates itself to light, right? That's how we understand. And light is then bouncing off the different oscillating objects, or the creation, the full objects, the form, and then transmitting to us an information. And for us, the best way to how we perceive that is through color. Through color, we can differentiate the different aspects of things around us, form, shape. That's how we are perceiving our environment around us. And this consciousness is taking on many different forms. Of course, the structure and the way that this consciousness is taking form is being created with um, how should I say this, with a very specific algorithm, or they have in common a certain program per se of creation. And I believe that that is something that is inherent of this, let's say, this planet Earth. And within this planet Earth, because we are oscillating energy, oscillating information, we are also moving in and out of dimensions, meaning that in this current time and space, there are many aspects of reality that we are sharing with, that we are experiencing with simultaneously. Okay, so I know that this is going to sound a little bit complex, but I will create a little animated video to kind of show how that works, because it's very interesting, and it's important that we understand that, because from that perspective, we can understand what it means to be human. As humans, we are this consciousness that is organized in such a beautiful manner. We are organized within the chakra system. We have the root, the sacral, the solar, the heart, the throat, and the third eye. And each one of those have such important manage and maintain important aspects of the human body. One cannot work without the other. And that's important to know, because a lot of us tend to think in terms of black and white. Everything is divided in positive and negative. And what I hope to kind of impart on you, or show or share with you, and have you think about from this video today, is that what we are really living in, what we are living in this matrix, is a range of colors, a range of information. And we are exploring as infinite consciousness all of those colors, all of those range of possibilities of experiences. If we understand how to navigate those experiences from the perspective that we are infinite consciousness becoming aware of itself through those experiences, there's something that happens there. There is a shift in our perception. And hopefully, if you are able to look at things from that much higher perspective, there will also be a shift in your attachment and your perception to those interactions. As humans, we are raised in a very compartmentalized society, a compartmentalized reality, where everything is has an organized direction. We are living in a society that we have, again, this is the basic structure of reality: feminine and masculine, which then creates this family nucleus, which then extends out into a larger network. And all of this family, all of this network that you are a part of, is a network of consciousness. And consciousness unites itself with like information, right? So you are in your family, in your network, sharing the experiences that you're sharing, and even more so, mirroring those experiences that you're experiencing. So if you can imagine yourself as this, not just yourself as an entity, as an individual entity, but as a whole, which is your network, your entire family, which is consciousness becoming aware of itself through specific coding or a specific program of creation, of experience. And so different parts of that organism, if you visualize that network, that family that you are in, your father, your mother, your brother, your uncles, your entire extended family that goes all the way back to your ancestral lineage, you are sharing specific information that is resonant with each other, which means that as you are evolving, as you are experiencing life, you will mirror each other's opposites, mirror each other's weaknesses mirror each other's, incomplete perspectives. And this is how consciousness becomes aware of itself, because as it experiences all possible, possibilities, it then has the ability of exploring those ranges of emotion, those ranges of experiences, the ranges of possibilities, which can change at any time, but they are in a way controlled. And our experiences, in a way, are controlled through the filter of our perception, because our perception is a product of everything that we have known, everything that we have learned. And that's very interesting, because this is how consciousness becomes aware of itself, through having living through a simulation of a civilization, a planet like we are living now. We are all organisms that are participating in a simulation where we are sharing and projecting into our reality everything, all the experiences that we are sharing as humans here. Everything from our daily lives to evolution to healing as a whole. But we are always one consciousness. We are always fractals of that infinite consciousness, manifested within these different human bodies, within these little vessels that we have of the human body. And I would like to invite you this week to look at things from that perspective, because we reduce ourselves to little humans that are struggling, that are in pain, that are living in this reality, and we feel completely helpless. We feel disconnected completely from anything divine or any empowerment. And it's because we are not realizing that as an organism, as this soul organism, as this consciousness, we are fully in control of what we are projecting, of what we are creating. Now, as consciousness that comes in this shared reality here that we are projecting with each other, it's almost as if this is how um, consciousness operates. It is constantly moving, constantly shifting, constantly creating. And the moment that you start paying attention to one aspect of itself, another part of itself becomes aware. And this is how we are living in this network that is constantly communicating with us. And each one of us are contributing to that in our network. So what that means is that when we talk about collective healing, when we talk about ancestral healing, we're really talking about all of these aspects, all of these organisms that make up our network becoming conscious, becoming aware of itself. And that's why healing the root cause of those things which are lying within your perception, they are what produce your perception, are the key to disentangling yourself from incomplete truths. Now, why do I say that? Because the matrix, what we live in right now, is number one, this consciousness becoming aware of itself. It is the simulation which we are all collectively co creating in order to become consciousness aware of itself. Okay? That's what it is. It's a simulation that we are all co creating. And this is how consciousness operates on multiple planes, multiple dimensions, different levels of reality, of existence. And we are not just this planet Earth going through that. All organisms in this, what we know as the universe, which could be a projection of our structured reality. It could be a projection that is programmed into our mind, into thinking that we even live in a universe. Um, but what it could be from the outside is that we are all organisms of consciousness that are becoming aware of itself through, and they manifest themselves in the shape of planets, in the shape of these galaxies, the multiverse. Everything that we live in right now that we know that is real to us could have been implanted in our consciousness. It could have been programmed. So it's interesting to consider that as a possibility, because it allows us to question what is reality. And for myself personally, in my personal journey, I've had the opportunity of really questioning that because my reality has been completely changed, turned upside down from what I thought was real in my, let's say, my former life. Let's say during my time, as an event planner in my former life, for example, where my life was focused on my spiritual evolution, but also in that somewhat survival mode from the perspective of being an entrepreneur, having a business, but just from a limited perspective, looking at life from a very limited way, right? We have science, which dictates how things operate in our reality. We have physics, we have mathematics, and all of these things are things that help us understand the structure of our reality. But we don't even question that one bit because we are looking at this external projection, at this creation around us, to the world, to our life, to our experience, our friends, our family. And as humans, we are so heavily engaged in what is in front of our eyes that we forget to question reality. We forget to question what exactly it is that we're looking at, and it's quite normal for us to do that because we have been raised in a society that uh, uh, is compartmentalized in a way to fragment the mind, the self, into a very organized way of thinking, into a follower mode, right? We become followers because we are told that there are structures that create our reality, that are organized, schools of thought organized, politics organized, financial structure, everything is organized for us already in this civilization, society, and it's demonstrated in some way that it is functioning. And it's dangerous to not question that reality because then we lose sight, or we lose the opportunity to question what is, what can be different, how organisms can be different. And so a lot of us will normally experience very traumatic experiences in our life before we even begin to question reality. And it's interesting because in this matrix that we live in, our emotions, our ability to feel that helplessness, that low emotion, is what also triggers us to wake up. And it's not because the emotions have to be negative, it's because um, these are the ones that bring us into a state of helplessness. And when we come into a state of helplessness, we are then finally questioning all reality. We're questioning ourselves, we're questioning what's happening, questioning what we're doing wrong. And so it's almost as if each one of us as humans go through this process of coming into questioning of our reality. And it's in this point where it's important for us to note that our emotions are the key to understanding the matrix that we live in, because we live in a sensory reality. This simulation that we are currently sharing and projecting, um, the organisms and the structure of this human organism that we are in is fueled through those experiences. It is becomes aware of itself. It is receiving information through the experiences. Okay, we are sensory, just the simple fact that the human body is an organism that functions like a sponge that receives and absorbs all information from around us is a key element to understanding how you are interacting with the whole world around you, with this structure of reality. And so, therefore, what that means is that us sentient beings, which are uh, utilizing our emotions as sensors to kind of navigate this matrix that we live in, there's a very important tool there that we have to understand how to utilize those emotions in perceiving information. And as we look around us in this reality, there's a lot of suffering. There is a lot of happiness too, but there's a lot of suffering, and a lot of things that are out of balance in our reality. And that right there is our doorway to begin to question the structure of this reality that we live in. When I refer to the matrix, I'm talking about the structure of this reality. I'm talking about the structure of this compartmentalized reality that we live in, how societies were created, how things are run, how our politics are dictated, how they are organized, how religion came to be. See, all of these things are very important, and they're all elements of compartmentalization in this matrix. And it's important to understand that because um, I invite you to look very closely at each one of these aspects and your relationship with those aspects. And then, more importantly, what you have taken from the knowledge that has been imparted on you, the information that you have learned from those structured realities that form and mold your perception of reality, not just reality, but yourself. When you question those things, you start to look at a lot of things that sometimes don't make sense. You start to understand that a lot of these things are not always created with the benefit or with, we don't have in mind the wellness, the vitality of this human organism. And so that is something very important to note, because what that means is that as human organisms becoming aware of itself, we are being put, or we are putting ourselves in this simulated reality in order to trigger certain aspects of ourselves, not only individually, but as a network, as a collective, as our entire ancestral lineage. And if we look at history, if we look at our historical timeline of life on this planet, well, at least the historical timeline that we have available to us, um, we see that we have gone through many cyclical patterns of life, death, suffering, cleansing, rebirth, and all of that is to help us as consciousness embodied in this physical body to become aware of itself. What does it mean to become aware of itself? Consciousness explores all possibilities of existence. And in order to do that, it's going to explore the rainbow, that range of emotions, because it's through the emotions that trigger, that help us receive information about our environment. We utilize our skin as an absorption mechanism for everything around us, which is the largest organism, which is connected to the nervous system, which then translates that information. And as it comes into the physical body, it is organized as information filtered through the chakra system. The chakra system is the organization of all these ranges of frequency that make up who we are. And when things are filtered through each one of those, it goes through the filtration system based on our perception, our past experiences. So all of the things that make up our perception of something, whether something is good, whether something is bad, is created from our past perceptions. So in that sense, we're going through filters that we are taking on from our parents, from our family, from our society. So as you can see, the influence of the matrix and the influence that it has on your perception goes very, very deep. And that's something that I want you to think about, because um, what I realized on my personal journey is that when I actually went deep into those to question my perceptions from that reality, I realized that I didn't actually agree with a lot of those things that I have learned and that I have aggregately collected as my perception through my family, through my society, through my personal experiences. And this is a very powerful place to come to, because what allowed me to, as consciousness, become awake and question reality truthfully were those many different situations that caused pain, that caused suffering, that took you out of balance. Because as an organism of consciousness, we thrive, we create when we are in balance, when we are in a state of this homeostasis of perfect balance. When the organism is destroyed, it is fragmented with pain, with suffering, it comes out of balance. Just like any organism in this reality, the natural lifespan of a living organism goes through a range of the health and the highest vitality, which is only provided to the organism when it has all the elements of health, of vitality that it requires to live a healthy, balanced life. And humans, it's more complex. There's more things to us that is required in order to come into that balanced state. It's it, from the food that we eat to our emotional state to our understanding of reality and our perception, to our spiritual awareness as infinite consciousness. All of these aspects are important to the well-being and to the thriving of a human organism. And it's important to note that as a daily checklist for what you need as an organism. It's important to acknowledge that, because if we pretend that those things are not really important to us, sooner or later the organism will go out of balance. And it's very clear we are here to experiment that, we are here to explore that, and we do through all of our experiences, whether we're at work, whether we're in our relationships with our family, friends, our careers, whatever it is that we are doing. There is a certain feeling of unsettling feeling when we have something out of balance. And the beauty of this organism becoming aware of itself is that it has the ability to become aware of those aspects that are out of balance. And we know that because the body starts to come out of balance itself. It becomes sick, it becomes exhausted, it becomes tired, it becomes into a destructive cycle. So that indicates to us that there is a certain line of well-being. There's a homeostasis that we must learn to maintain. And so over time, after many trial and errors throughout our entire life, we realize what we need as humans, as adults, as these matured organisms, um, in this simulation, what we require to thrive. Now, that also helps us understand that the simulation that we live in, this matrix, is perhaps in more ways than one created to create destruction and to pull us away from that homeostasis, right? And it's very interesting because there are many elements that contribute to the destruction of the human organism. And these elements are intertwined with not only our DNA and the information that we hold in our DNA, but the ancestral lineage that connects us to our network, that as whole consciousness, we are maybe progressing through an evolution that's specific to these shared organisms. So I'm talking about your mother, your father, and your entire lineage that goes back and forth. You are sharing cyclical patterns of information, cyclical patterns until this consciousness becomes aware of itself within this range of information. So we are incarnating in and out of this lifetime. We come into this very limited, maybe 100 years of life that we are exploring, experiencing, this life. And all of these perceptions that we have as an organism that matures into adulthood are created by all of the learned experiences that your parents have brought in, that their parents have brought in. And so we are cycling through these experiences over and over again. And so this matrix plays on this in a way, or interacts with this information as well collectively. It's not to say that one experience is better than other. All of us are experiencing this evolution at our own rate, at our own level, as infinite consciousness becoming aware of itself. My particular family has its own lessons and its own karmic expressions and experiences that it's going through. Your family has certain experiences that it requires in order to come into its total healing as an organism. And again, we're not just talking about you, we're talking about your whole family, because you share the same lessons. You mirror within each other the triggers that are the keys to your healing. So as we live our lives, we become more and more aware of these things, and it's important that you do, because this allows you to start to work on that information. So the question is, okay, so as organisms living in this matrix, which it works with this information that we bring in as a collective, as a network, as a family, but also we come into a structured reality which is extremely compartmentalized. So what happens when this network organism comes in to a simulation that is compartmentalizing every aspect of reality. It makes the human feel as if they're in little boxes. Their family, their society, the division of color, the division of language. And these are all illusions of division, of course, which are created and compartmentalized by this matrix. The concept of money and the limitation of money, or the illusion of limitation of money, the concept of education, or how a human is able to reach success of any kind in this reality. All of that is imparted by our society here for a reason. It creates a very compartmentalized perception of reality. And so the sooner we become aware of that, then we can start to understand how to interact with that information that we are put into, not only individually, but as a network. And these compartmentalizations occur in a micro level and a macro level in our entire world. And all organisms in this multiverse are experiencing temporarily, as we share this time and space, this reality, okay? But we are not tied to that reality, because if we are living in this simulated reality, and if we are actual creators as consciousness, becoming aware of itself, then we have the ability to navigate those and choose whether we wish to engage in this simulated reality, which functions by the utilization of the sensory system of this organism, which is ruled by the emotions, which is translated through and perceived. And the emotions are basically the tools utilized to keep this human body understanding whether it's safe or unsafe, whether it's healthy or unhealthy in this reality. Our perception is the one that manages our reality. Why do I say that? Because when we talk about being creators of our reality, the only thing that limits us from creating anything in this simulated matrix that we live in is our belief system, is our perception. If we were to tweak our perception gently in some ways, we can tweak the outcome of the things that occur in our reality. And the more and more as consciousness that we become aware that we are capable of doing that, the more we are able to change and no longer engage in a matrix that is meant to stimulate emotions, to stimulate experiences. See, the matrix also functions as this simulated tool for a simulated evolution, okay? And we live in a matrix multiverse that functions like an organism. And within this organism, the basic structure of the organism is this dualistic perspective, okay? Because in order to create, we require both. Everything requires the positive and the negative charge in order to come into this balance. And so, from that perspective, all organisms within this matrix multiverse hold that charge, either one or the other, hold that consciousness. When something has gone out of balance, comes into the negative, it is consciousness then rejecting itself, okay? When something goes into the positive, it comes into this highest level of consciousness, it comes to elevated, enlightened being. It is consciousness becoming aware of itself. So this pattern of duality functions as a guideline to understand how consciousness also operates in this reality. So if we become aware of itself, we are that integration, that full integration of both. If we become unaware of itself, the structure begins to disintegrate and dissolve, as it requires that balance, and it requires full understanding of all possible ranges of existence. And that is done through this simulation. So in other words, there is no good, there is no bad. There is no limitation of experiences that you can have here as a human. And you will, and you have been reincarnating over and over again, experiencing all of these possibilities. It is just a natural aspect of yourself as an organism. So when we talk about healing the body in this matrix multiverse, we're talking about an organism that can shift out of balance. And in order to come back into balance, it needs to rebalance the perspective of those things. And our bodies are such complex, beautiful machines that they don't only work on emotion. They don't only work on the biological aspects. Everything is interrelated. Our emotions communicate to the body, to the nervous system, how it operates. And from that perspective, we are able to bring the body into a vital state, into a balanced healing state. When the body is rejecting itself, when at the cellular level, at the mental level, emotional level, we are rejecting ourselves on such a deep level, the entire body begins to come out of balance. It is so important to understand that, because this is how this entire matrix multiverse operates. So if we start to feel bad about ourselves, if we start to feel out of balance, just that tiny perception, that tiny thought will throw your organism out of balance. And it's not to say that that's wrong. You are very welcome to experience pain, suffering, um, all kinds of things, even illness. You are very welcome to experience those things. They're a part of your journey, and there are rules to how you are experiencing these things that are imparted in you as a result of many cycles of consciousness that go down your lineage. Some of these traumas, some of these illnesses are brought down ancestrally, but we have to start to look at them, these illnesses, for example, as information that it's not just an illness. It's not just something so physical, so superficial. We become ill when we come out of balance, and there's more aspects than one to what created that. So, and I'm sorry, let me clarify what I mean by that. As I was mentioning, the organism comes out of balance when the perception is skewed, for example. So in that case, if we understand the progression of what happens to the organism when it starts to feel bad, this is a simplistic example. Let's say I start to reject myself, I start to hate myself, and over time, and not just even over time, just in our everyday interactions, the body comes out of balance. So as that happens, these programs are playing on itself, and we begin to look at the world through these filters, and it completely changes our entire experience into this one track experience. And what happens when consciousness comes into these one track experiences, we fail to experience other aspects of reality. And you are welcome to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But as consciousness becoming aware of itself, you will reincarnate, you will come back to experience again until you are completely experienced the range of experiences that are required to understand what it is to be a human. And to be human means to understand your emotions. That's what we're here. The matrix is created in order to experience the range of consciousness. And that range of consciousness we can understand through emotions. That's the language of this reality that we live in. When we learn to master both aspects of each emotion, the positive and negative aspect of each emotion, the range of frequency of information, because emotion is frequency, emotion is information, information is frequency, and this information that we receive from the frequency translates into many things. It manifests into different things in this reality. Physical form, emotional form, mental form, thought form, all of those things are a part of what we are navigating. We are interacting with all of those things constantly, but they are manifested. So when we talk about healing, we have to access that perception that came out of balance, because everything has this duality. So when something is out of balance, we have to understand how to bring it back into balance, that perception, that way of looking at things. When we bring it back into balance, then no longer are it reorganizes the way that our perception is then played out in our experiences. And that's very important because when you um, I don't want to say correct because it's not like we are correcting something that's bad. When we rebalance that perspective, we are then rebalancing how we are experiencing all of those things. And you come into that stasis again, that beautiful balance, that perfect integration. From the very larger picture, as infinite consciousness, consciousness becomes aware of itself and experiences that range of everything. But on the highest level, if we look at the range of information, you can visualize it like a rainbow of many different colors. All the emotions, all the experiences that are available to us fall in that category, categorized as information, which is translated into vibration, which is translated into color. And each one of those colors, the ranges, are something that you can visualize as information that's fragmented through this dimension only, through this matrix. When you as an organism have had enough, when you have experienced that entire range of emotion, you then move on from this matrix into another organism as infinite consciousness. And as infinite consciousness, you can experience a whole different dimension of which you will then experience another range of information. Maybe it's not emotions anymore. Maybe it's shapes. Maybe it's light. Maybe it's anything else. That's just a very simple example. What I mean to say as infinite consciousness in this particular dimension that we live in this matrix, we are made to experience through the emotional body as we have. And when we talk about healing, all we're talking about is the integration of those perceptions, the rebalancing of those perceptions, not just you, but your entire network, not just the network, but the entire world, the collective consciousness. The collective consciousness is going through that exact same awakening. It's going through that process of becoming aware of itself. And all organisms that are sharing this dimensional reality that we're living in right now are kind of operating in a similar way. I always want to tie in the concept of interdimensional beings, extraterrestrial beings, because for me, that was the missing link to understand the bigger picture of consciousness and how consciousness operates. Through my experiences of the hybridization program, through my experiences of contact, they allowed me to question reality outside the boundaries of what was told to me to be real, as I was educated in school, as I was educated by my parents, by my society, all of the belief systems were completely destroyed when that factor came into my reality. And from that perspective, it took me to another level of questioning, what is true, what is real. Ultimately, uh, as infinite consciousness, there is no limitation to what can be real, because our perception, our ability to understand these interdimensional beings, these extraterrestrial manifestations of consciousness, extraterrestrial only to us, because of course we live on this planet, and our perception is that these are beings that are coming from outside. But what I have learned from my journey is that really all of these beings, even these beings that are extraterrestrial, are projections of consciousness that we are projecting into our reality. And our exchanges with them, our exchanges with all beings, all organisms of consciousness, high vibration, low vibration, whatever they are there to share this experience with us. Now, when we talk about the hybridization program, and I want to talk about that just 1 minute because I want to make sure we go there. I don't want to neglect this bigger picture for those of you that have experienced this. And it's also an important element to note because it helps us understand what is occurring on many levels. The human body that functions on the perception of emotions through this filtration system is a very beautiful, beautiful, complex, advanced organism. It has the ability of creating life, and it creates life with the same structure that we are created, with that chakra system of consciousness and information that is organized. And our human body holds imprints of information that are all the imprints of information from the beginning of our creation. That's something that's very interesting. If each one of us are holding to this infinite amount of information, when we give birth to another life, we are imparting in them is programmed that same information with, the aggregate information of, the father lineage as well. And it then creates another organism that is holding aggregate information from those two lineages. And so procreation in this matrix multiverse is one of the most important aspects of maintaining the vitality and the continuation of this matrix. If we continue to have new organisms being brought in, and it's not necessarily that they are new creations, new life, they are just reallocated consciousness which is then molded into this human organism, into another organism. And these extraterrestrial beings, as consciousness that don't operate on a physical level, they operate on a higher dimension, are requiring, in a sense, the utilization. They don't necessarily require, but they utilize the human to procreate, to create these extensions of this consciousness. They are consciousness as well on a different level. Um, so what's happening is that this consciousness is being, reproduced, it's being expanded and contracted at any time. And nothing ever dies, nothing ever eliminates from or these organisms of consciousness. Energy can never be deleted or erased or eliminated. Energy just reallocates itself. And that in that same function, if you consider the human race, that energy, that source of energy, it is just reallocating itself into different manifestations. It can be manifested in a human form, it can be manifested in these extraterrestrial forms, and the product of this information that is then creating the organism will define its vibrational frequency. It'll define its story, its experiences, all of the things that it's doing based on the combination of information to produce that organism. So that's what's happening. And ourselves as a human race, as this collective consciousness, we learn more and more what is available to us through our human experiences. When we talk about the matrix, I just want to end this very brief summary about about consciousness and about the matrix with an invitation that when I say matrix, I'm talking about everything that makes up our reality. I'm talking about our talking about the life that we're living here, what makes up reality, what makes up our perceptions. I'm talking about, um, you know, all of the things that our society is showing us to be real in this simulation. And what matters at the end of the day, from your 24-hour day, well, your 12-hour day, you're awake, or however times you are, however long you are awake, consciously unconsciously exchanging and experiencing waking time, the invitation is to observe all of your routines, observe your interaction with your family, with your friends, with your life, and just observe, what does the human body go through from the moment that it wakes up to the moment that it goes to sleep? What triggers the human body? What triggers us to feel emotion, good and bad? As you begin to question that, you'll see that everything around you is actually meant to stimulate this human body. Everything. And that is our That is how we operate in this reality. It can be a weakness to destruct the human structure, the human organism, or it can be something absolutely empowering that allows the organism to expand, to come into that highest expression of itself. And what I'm here to do is to remind you that as this infinite consciousness fragmented into this human form, into this projection, into this simulated matrix reality, is that you have the ability to become the highest expression of yourself beyond the perceived limitations of a structured reality that was told to you, that was, imparted in you, indoctrinated, that was presented to you in this reality. We are not limited to this matrix and to the laws of this matrix. We are infinite consciousness, and that's why we have glimpses of that in our historical timeline with beings that are like Jesus, these magnificent beings that are able to have gifts of seeing things, of looking beyond dimensions. And the reason why I can talk about all of these things is because I only talk about what I have seen from my personal experience. And what I wish for you is to take the time to look at your reality and question it to the very depth of its creation, its function, and how you interact in it, so that you can find your truth. Because my experience and everything I share with you is everything that I have seen with my own consciousness, everything that I have experienced through the transformation, through the destruction of all my belief systems, in order to be empty, neutral, a shell with no influence of anything around me. And that was the most wonderful, powerful thing I've ever done in my life, because it allowed me to have a moment of disconnect from this matrix. And that when we are disconnected from the influence of the matrix, from that constant stimulation, we then have the ability to experience much larger aspects of creation. We have the ability to connect to that infinite consciousness. The body is then a clear vessel, that it has the ability to connect to that infinite consciousness that allows us to move beyond the limitations, the perceived limitations of the matrix. Again, everything is perception, and if we allow our perception to be limited by what we are just shown in front of us, instead of questioning, going in, the human body is going to be the vessel that will allow you to explore this reality and consciousness infinitely. It is all within the body. The body is this magnificent structured vessel that allows you, that when you get to know the body, when you understand the function of emotions, of triggers, when you understand the human, even the biology of the body, is a very elegant example of how this entire matrix is also created, because everything is fractals of itself within itself. The structures of creation are all designed within each other. So we work collectively, we are interacting with all of these things. And if we become aware of how the human body operates, we can learn much more, we can see much more. So the invitation this week is to take this step a little bit deeper. Go in, um, you know, question what the reality is, what this matrix is, this simulated reality, so that you can then know where to start your healing. Okay? Because if you don't question your reality, if you don't question what's out of balance in your existence, you won't know where the healing has to take place. And we are being triggered collectively as consciousness in this matrix multiverse, um, through many things. Our environment, and because we are collective consciousness, we are all evolving at the same, um, we're all having our own personal experiences, but we are all going through evolution. Everything is constantly moving, changing, and we are moving in the form of this spiral that is always, in a sense, ascending, But I don't want to say ascending from the sense that we are higher frequency, lower frequency, but we are moving through this massive collective consciousness that allows all organisms on this planet, on this shared existence, to experience all ranges of those things at different times. But collectively, because everything is a fractal, we are also sharing this evolution. So we're all going through the same parameters of existence, of experiences. And we believe that these, other planets are influencing the energy and information that we're experiencing. We call that astrology. And we can utilize that as a tool to understand the energies that we are sharing here on this planet based on a timeline. But from a larger perspective, we're talking about consciousness moving through this structure of reality collectively. And so, as we are moving through that collective consciousness, we are in a way influenced or affected by, again, this is the matrix, is the structure of reality, emotionally. And there are different windows of opportunity that highlight certain aspects of ourselves, of our consciousness. And it happens collectively. That's why a lot of us experience these phases where we are much more open, or phases where we are feeling more triggered, more pained. And so it's important to note those as a human organism and take those opportunities that are given to us as consciousness, as a collective, to heal. The hope is that if we all become conscious as a collective, we then have the ability of collectively moving through these dimensional shifts, which we will move through naturally. That's just a natural aspect of our existence. It's not that some of us are not going to make it to the next round, or we're not going to make it to the next. We are infinite consciousness. We are experiencing all possibilities. And sooner or later, we are all moving in that same direction. So, in the spiritual community, there tends to be sometimes separation between what is high vibration, what is low vibration. And I believe that the integration of those two, of the complete understanding of those two aspects, are the key to coming into that balance, to that stasis, to no longer interacting with the matrix, the simulation that is created from the perspective of compartmentalization, but you are no longer interacting. You are an organism that comes into a stasis, and that pulls you away from that out of balance exchange. So I hope you guys have an incredible week. I want to say happy Father's Day to all those wonderful fathers, women and men that play that father role, that divine masculine, supporting your families, your friends. And even those of you that are not fathers, but are, like biological fathers, but are fathering the community, okay, from that, holding that, that divine masculine space. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you all have an incredible day. I will see you soon. Let me see if I can answer some questions. Anushi says, I started trying to take control of my emotions when I understood my generation is affecting with this. I got a deep awakening. That's amazing, Anushi. We are in total control. Yes, we are. That is awesome. Positive and negative charts. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. I want to thank you for everything that you guys for coming here. Who else? Let's see if I have any more questions. I'm going through all of this. Hi, Becky. Hi, Vanessa. Phenomenal art behind you. Thank you so much. I finally finished that painting, and this is depicting how the human body looks to me when I look at people, when I look at their attachments, when I look at so if you see the spheres, maybe I'll show you this on an Instagram post or something, but when you see the spheres on this image, um, those are representing manifestations of blockages that are within space. And so the human body is very complex. We have the many layers of the human body. And within those layers is manifested information, sometimes stagnant information. So that stagnant information manifests into a form or just color or shape. As you can see, it also has cords that are connecting it, and the cords connected to that network that I talked about. So we are very heavily connected to our network, our family lineage. And the body is not just a physical form. I created dots so that you can see that, there are aspects of little fractals of consciousness that make up who you are as an organism. And within the matrix, or within this simulated reality that we live in, we are moving through all of these ranges of information, which can be attachments, which can be perceptions that skew the filtration system, which is the chakra system there. Maybe I'll do a quick little post on that to show you. But thank you so much. And I am so happy to connect with you guys. I hope you have an incredible week. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Tracy, you were able to hear. I'm so glad. Kai, thank you so much for being here. Akram, thank you so much. So great to hear from you. Integration, eventually, we all get there. Yes, integration, eventually, all will get there. We all affect each other. That's why no one should feel superior. Absolutely right. It's absolutely right. Awesome. I missed the last bit that you were saying about the masculine. I was just thanking the divine masculine for holding space, and today we celebrate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, my loves. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Peggy, for being here. So wonderful to see you. Natalie, thank you. It's such a gift to share this moment with you, and I'm happy to be back in town this week. I will be traveling again for the next couple weeks. And I really want to say this. My website was down for 4 weeks. GeraldineOrozco.com was down for 4 weeks. And during that time, a lot of emails were lost, and there were some bookings that didn't make it to my calendar. So I'm so sorry if you were affected in that. It was just during the very beginning of June until mid-June. And so I'm really happy to assist you in rebooking those sessions, making sure that we get that. The website is fully functioning now and it's up, although I do have hundreds of emails to go through and I am catching up with those now. So anybody that's looking to book a session with me, the website is fully functioning now. It is communicating with my website. Usually when a session books, it goes directly to my calendar and I'm able to see it, and that's not usually an issue. But I will be traveling and I will be back. My next available date for sessions begins at the very beginning of August. For the second week of August, from the 5th to the 9th, is my first opening. So if anybody would like a session with me, please feel free to start booking during that time. I will be at Disclosure Fest this coming week, and they will be showing the film, the documentary, Extraordinary, the Seeding. So if you are there, I look forward to meeting you. Send me a little shout out. Let me know if you're going to be at Disclosure Fest. I would love to meet you, connect with you, chat with you, especially if you're an experiencer, if you're a hybrid parent. I'm working on a very exciting project that I will announce soon about the hybridization program. And, it's taken a lot of time and been focused on that. I'm also trying to focus more on writing my book, and I've been traveling a lot, and I will be traveling a lot for the next 3 months. And for that reason, I have decided to part ways with the wonderful radio station Starseed Awakening, which we have our show every Saturday between 12 and 2. So I will no longer be on that show again. It just became too overwhelming and too much to have that show every Saturday between 12 and 2, which is such a key time when I'm traveling, to be either on the road or, for the past couple weeks, I had been at conferences and internet connection was bad, and, timing and scheduling. So I don't like to have that kind of, inability to commit to something perfectly. So I have parted ways, and I invite you to continue listening to that amazing show. I mean, Misha Johnston and Tana Newberry, they're wonderful, and I know that they're going to do a great job on the show moving forward. I will still be having my show the first Tuesday of every month on The Spiritual You, and I am hoping to bring you a lot of really awesome information over the next couple months that you should see. And also, maybe even bringing some guests on, some special guests, but I will definitely select those very carefully so we can get some amazing breakthroughs with that small time that we have together. That's my goal. At the end of this month, June 23rd, I have my event here in San Francisco. I invite you to please come if you're here in San Francisco Bay Area. I will be talking really deep into this stuff about the DNA and how we store emotional information and how to destroy the blockages. Like, I really want you to learn how to do that. This is what I do in my sessions with you, but we must learn how to disconnect from this matrix or to destroy those programs that limit our ability to come into the highest expression of ourselves. And so this is the goal. And it is complemented by Alba Weinman's regression, which she will take you through. And also Blair Styra, who is our honored guest from New Zealand, who is a channel, and he is going to be he's an incredible psychic, and he will be reading the audience. He will be working with the audience as we tap into that akashic record to get information necessary for your journey, for your healing. What do you need right now to get to the next level? So this event is very much created to create a very powerful shifting day. It's a full day workshop to help you get the tools you need to get to the next step. That is the most important thing for me when I spend any time with anyone, that we focus on doing that. That's what I'm here to do. So I take that very seriously, and I really hope to meet you guys if you guys come. The past events that we had in Florida were beautiful. It was a fantastically powerful event, and I do hope to be doing some of that great work at the San Francisco event as well. So please join me. Join me in Alba and Blair. We do have some spots left for that group. So the following weekend, we have our Shasta retreat. And guess what? I do have a couple spots that opened in the Shasta retreat. So if you would like to come up to Shasta with me, with Blair, with Alba, to have a very nice and intimate event with us, it is a small group. We're having a delicious catering. It's in a beautiful retreat up in Mount Shasta. You get to go to vortexes if you like. You can also go to this mineral springs. We're going to have an on-site sound bath every night, and we're going to have yoga every morning by the wonderful Mayuri, and the sound bath by Emil Johns. I will tag them on this video when we're done so that you can connect with them if you like. But they are amazing, and I love them. They are very high vibrational, very conscious, very aware people, and those are the kind of people that I want to work with and surround myself with. So they will be there at the retreat. So do join us. I have a couple spots left that opened, and if you wish to join, that would be great. Very well. So I think that's everything. The film that is coming out, Extraordinary the Seeding, if you're going to be at Disclosure Fest, you can watch it there. And there's also the trailer that you can watch on YouTube, and I can share that here for those of you that are asking about that. All right, my loves, I hope you have an incredible day. Thank you for being here with me. Happy Father's Day, and do take care. All my love.